Ochako Uraraka starts off Season 6 in the city evacuation team, prepared to help people evacuate the city near the hospital, where the heroes will be raiding the doctor. She moves to her assigned sector along with Nejire, Tsuyu, and other heroes as they try to clear the city so that there isn't a massive loss if Shigaraki were to wake up, and largely Ochako and the other heroes have succeeded in this effort. We watch as she jokes around with Bakugo that he should accept an old lady's gratitude when she hands him a chocolate bun. We see her smiling when Koda's controlled pets all make the local children smile, but elsewhere as Shigaraki begins to wake up and the hospital begins to decay away, Ochako is the first one to notice that something is wrong with Deku, as he starts hearing the first user warning him that Shigaraki is coming. This habit of Ochako focusing on the heroes so much that she can notice when something is wrong with them first, even in situations when she's busy helping normal civilians, is a large part of Ochako's character arc in Season 6, and it's why in many ways she's the MVP of the season. As Deku begins to realize that he needs to run, Ochako sees him going off on his own, saying that he forgot something and he needs to go get it, and she makes a worried face watching him go, as this will be the last time that Ochako Uraraka sees Deku conscious for nearly the rest of the season. After this, Deku goes on to have his battle with Shigaraki, and countless heroes are hurt trying to suppress the villain, but eventually Shigaraki retreats alongside his Nomu, and Deku passes out on the battlefield as the still conscious heroes begin the rescue effort. Gigantomachia ran through numerous cities on his way to Shigaraki, causing mass destruction in his wake as he ran through hospitals, daycares, residential areas, moving trains, flower shops, hero supply stores, schools, everything you can name. One man did so much damage that the entire hero society struggles to keep up with it, but Ochako keeps pushing on. As we see various police officers and heroes combing through the wreckage, as they get the news that Himiko Toga is still possibly in the area, we see buildings fall apart and people scattered in various states of disarray scattered through the rubble. A young girl tries to pull her brother free from fallen debris, but he's stuck under a heavy concrete slab and tells his sister to just run away, telling her he'll give her his Endeavor money pouch if she just runs, but she doesn't want to leave her brother behind. As a building near them crumbles, threatening to crush the two of them together, Ochako and Tsuyu swoop in and save them, with Ochako making the slab weightless to free the boy. But as Tsuyu takes the two to help, Ochako continues and runs ahead. She sees a man who seems like he is barely able to make it to his feet. He's covered in blood and his eyes are completely whited out, and he calls for Ochako, asking her if she can please go to his wife trapped in the back of apartment 403. And of course she goes and saves the woman, reuniting the two, but she can't afford to take them to the shelter. There's more people to save. Someone calls, "Hey miss," and she runs and runs, saving and saving, using her quirk the way that we all thought she might have to when 13 initially explained her own quirk in the first seasons of My Hero Academia. Ochako could potentially be one of the best rescue heroes of her generation when she's older, but even though her quirk is very useful in this situation, the sheer scale of the destruction starts to sink in for some. Through all of the crying and screaming and the sound of people shouting for a doctor and for someone to help, Ochako hears a hero saying, "I give up. This is hopeless. I need to find another job. I can't anymore." Ochako just stares, realizing the toll that this is taking on the heroes who never knew things would ever get this bad. And of course, heroes in My Hero Academia often sign up for the chance to just use their quirks freely and for the chance at stardom and fame and the perfect life. They want to be beloved by the people, even if that means struggling against villains every once in a while, because heroes beat villains. That's just how it works. But here we see a situation unfolding that just breaks the mind of many heroes and starts to weed out the ones whose minds weren't made to handle this level of hopelessness. In the face of My Hero Academia's war arc, everyone's smiles have been taken away. So heroes quit, thinking that there are no more smiles left to protect. But even then, Ochako still pushes on. When Deku leaves UA, he leaves letters to each of the Class 1A students. His letter to Ochako says, "Dear Uraraka, thank you for everything. I don't feel like I should be keeping a secret from everyone in Class 1A, so I'm leaving a letter. My quirk is a power that All Might passed on to me. It's a special power, and Shigaraki and All For One are trying to seize it. Before that happens, I must leave." As Ochako thinks, "You idiot, what have you gotten yourself into?" Over the course of the arc that follows, Deku absolutely runs himself ragged. He starts off trying to capture all of the Tartarus escapees alongside All Might, Endeavor, Hawks, and Genus, but things keep devolving and eventually Deku is left all by himself. We just covered the fight between Deku and Lady Nagant, but after that, Deku continues to face different assassins sent after him by All For One, as the villain keeps chipping away at his spirit and stamina. All For One seems to know how Deku is by now. He manipulates Deku into making himself more and more tired as he breaks his spirit and continues to enrage engage him with his tactics of using everyone around him to meet his ends. Deku fights spinner fans, solo assassins, giant ocean monsters, all in an effort to bring back normal so he and his friends can smile together one day in the future, and everyone can go back to the life of peace that they once knew. And eventually, Deku gets to the point where he can barely even move, as he abandons All Might and is more alone than he's ever been. Elsewhere, we see that the UA students can't accept what's happening to Deku. When Tokoyami and Shoto theorize that Deku is moving alongside Hawks and Endeavor, Ochako is the one who tells the rest of the class that they need to force the issue and organizes everyone to head to Nezu's office in their student outfits as they demand that he brings Endeavor in under a lie so they can confront him as well. And after Endeavor gives them Deku's location, Ochako and the other 1A students finally confront Deku in an effort to bring him back, saying that they're worried about him when he asks her what they're doing there. As Deku tries to run away, the events of our The Day Bakugo Apologized video happen, in a sort of fight where they try to capture him as he tries his best to get away, and eventually they are able to get Deku on the ground and much calmer after Ida reaches his hand out to Deku thanks to everyone's combined efforts, and Deku says he doesn't have the strength anymore to run away. Bakugo apologizes to Deku for being such an awful person, a long time coming and definitely way later than he should have, but hey, an apology is an apology, and Bakugo's apology and clear-cut reasoning makes Deku understand how mean he's being to the class, and Bakugo tells him that they're all just trying to be helpful to him. Even if they can't do everything, they can fill in for him where he falls short, and Deku apologizes, falling over while Bakugo has to catch him, as all of Class 1A watches this moment, truly understanding that this was a long time coming and this isn't a moment for them. But Ochako watches on looking like she knows that this is only the beginning, and Momo says that, well, our first challenge is completed, but things are about to get much harder, to which Ochako says, yeah. Now, UA was converted into a shelter to hold all of the civilians and parents of the students that need safety from the Tartarus escapees. But while Deku has continued the fight out on the Japanese streets, heroes have continued to retire, sharing small bits of info as they do, and by this point, enough has happened that the public has started to piece together that Shigaraki is after something called One For All, and the boy who left UA that the students went to go get is the user of the quirk that Shigaraki is after, meaning Deku's presence at UA puts every single one of them in danger. When the public starts screaming and shouting that Deku isn't a step 1 foot into UA, Deku almost smirks, like, see? I have no place here. Phew, okay. Well, there goes the pressure of hiding that secret. And as President Mike and Gina's trying to get them under control, things just get worse. Shut up, you useless heroes. You're the reason we're in this mess. Now you want us to put ourselves in danger for this kid? I have been in my home to come here. Get real. But as Deku stands there listening to all of their shouts, he turns to walk away and leave as the rain pelts him, and Ochako reaches out and grabs his hand, stopping him from leaving. She says, hey, it's okay. And Ochako actually takes the spot of the narrator here and says, we're not letting go of you now. We won't let you leave, because when heroes need protecting, who will be there to protect them? This again touches on the core of who Ochako is as a hero. She's been watching everything happening here from the start of the war arc, all the pain and everything she's seen everyone facing, and then you have Deku. If someone who was raised to be a hero their entire life can quit on the job because they're so overwhelmed at everything they're seeing, then what about Deku? Deku has seen so much more than everyone else has, and he literally went out alone to go save Japan and experience the horrors out there all for himself. A boy who just a short while ago was quirkless, who for years knew deep in his heart that he could never be a hero without a quirk, who wasn't raised to be a hero, kept fighting, even until he was broken, selflessly risking his life and body and mind for everyone else's smiles. So in this moment, remembering Eri and how just because she was removed from Overhaul didn't mean that she was saved yet, Ochako knows that there's more work to do. We see the crowd truly start to get crazy as the screaming gets louder and louder. In the crowd, we see Izuku Midoriya trying to reach her son with tears streaming down her face, and we see Eri in the building of Monoma likely hearing what's happening outside. We see Koda and the large girl that Deku saved during his solo run through the city, but it all feels hopeless. And as everyone's anxiety and fear and anger reaches a fever pitch to the point where all of these people start activating Deku's dangerous sense, completely overwhelming him, Ochako takes a step forward, jumping over the crowd with a loudspeaker in her hand, and starts standing on top of UA. It's here where Ochako gives a speech that I think will always go down in the history of My Hero Academia as the moment where Ochako Uraraka truly began to shine as a full-fledged hero, where she finally got her time to help a hero who needs saving. Ochako Ochako says Izuku Midoriya has a special power. Someone in the crowd says, so what? That doesn't mean he should be able to put us in danger just because he's tired, but Ochako says you don't get it. He left here because he didn't want to put all of us in danger. He's already considered that, but we're the ones who brought him back. Sure, his power is special and he's meant to defeat All for One, but that's exactly why he's being targeted. And that just because his power is special doesn't mean that he's special, with Ochako saying that there's no such thing as a special person. She questions the crowd and says, have you actually looked at him? Have you seen how he looks right now after going out there and facing who knows what for their sakes to keep them safe? Have you seen him? Look at what he's been through for us, for everyone here. He who has such a special power wants to do something to fix everything more than anyone else here. He kept moving with that motivating him, promising that he'd bring everything back to how it was, knowing that at any minute, All for One or Shigaraki could strike him down all by himself. But as the crowd starts to look at Deku and starts to feel some sort of sympathy, the same man in the crowd says, give me a break. What are you saying? We all need to go and do that and get covered in grime and filth? Does everyone here have to go to such lengths? And she says no. That burden is for us heroes to deal with. Place that all on our shoulders. But in exchange for our blood and our sweat and our tears and our effort, we need your support. Ochako here, much like Deku, is fighting for everyone's smiles, especially his right now in this moment. As she wipes her nose from standing in this rain and possibly starting to get a cold, she screams into the loudspeaker one last time. Right now, we can't guarantee your safety. We're all just as scared as you are. Everyone here, hero or not, is in the same boat under the same circumstances. Ochako thinks back to her childhood and remembers a time where she and a huge crowd watched a hero walking away from a battle injured with a sad look on his face. But as the crowd around him cheered and his fans called out to him with words of encouragement, the hero, who was in bad spirits, raises his arms with a smile, renewed from their support. And this is how it needs to work. When the heroes are in pain, they need to be supported. They need a smile placed on their face. They need help. And Ochako says that's why she's asking for their cooperation, so that tomorrow everyone can smile together, so that with everyone's help, Izuku can rest despite trying to carry all of these burdens on his own as a regular high schooler. Not asking anymore with tears in her eyes flowing freely, Ochako yells, let him stay here because UA is his hero academy. And as those words leave her mouth, we see Deku drop to the ground as the two of them remember the moment that they met again on the first day of school, when Deku fell over and Ochako saved him from having bad luck on his first day. And it's at this moment, by putting on this magnificent performance in front of everyone, speaking her mind and breaking down in front of the civilians, that Deku realizes that he matters outside of just a responsibility that he has to One for All and All for One. That he's valued and that people care about him in a way that he couldn't understand, and that he doesn't just have to destroy himself any longer all alone, because there are people who are by his side that will never leave his side if it was up to them. And that he can't have this mindset of just allowing anything to happen to him for the sake of their smiles, because they wouldn't be able to smile if anything happened to him. Ochako's speech rallies the civilians to come together and start asking plain questions to the heroes, just searching for some reassurance. And eventually they decide to let Deku in, but it's more than that. All of these people here have been changed by hearing Ochako's impassioned speech, just like everyone in Class 1A has been changed by Deku. Deku grew up purely focusing on everyone else and what they could do, instead of growing up with his own quirk and endlessly focusing on himself and what he's gonna do in the future. This makes him different from everyone else because his drive to save comes from years and years of fantasizing about saving people, despite knowing he'd never get a chance to be a hero. So when the opportunity comes, he runs at it and never lets go, no matter what that means. Throughout the story, Deku's way of being a hero spreads throughout the class, and when he loses his way in this arc and starts reverting into a more All Might-like state where he thinks he needs to do it all alone, Ochako and the rest of the class remind Deku that they can do everything together. That when everyone comes together to put their energy towards a singular goal, even if it's impossible, fantasy can become reality. And a big question I've had over the course of My Hero Academia is, how is society going to change? Even if they beat Shigaraki and bring everything back to normal, how will day-to-day life change if the people of Japan and how they look at heroes and heroics doesn't also change as well? Basically, how could Deku spread his way of the hero to everyone so that even civilians understand that they have a role to play and can't just leave everything to the heroes without supporting them when they can? Ochako effectively does that here by spreading this message in her impassioned speech, and ultimately being the one who more than anyone else saves Izuku Midoriya from himself and the rest of Japan who wish to cast him out. Sure, Bakugo and the other Class 1A students physically bring Deku back, back, and they physically save him. But when Deku gets back to UA, he even says that there's no place for him there, and he only walked back with them to respect their wishes, not because he actually decided to stay. Ochako, knowing that saving him meant going one step further, finally saved the hero who needs saving the most. And because of that, I think we should all watch for Ochako to become a truly special hero who may place higher on the top charts one day than many of us originally thought. And that's why Ochako saved Deku, not Bakugo. A topic I really wanted to discuss because I see people fighting all over Twitter because of Ochako's role in the most recent opening, and I just figured it'd be a good time to talk about it, especially since we just covered the fight that happens before all of this stuff ends up happening in the manga in our last video. So for now, this is Pineapple. I'll see you guys later. Peace.